Welcome to our exploration of climate change, one of the most significant environmental challenges facing humanity today. In this unit, we'll break down the basic concepts of climate change, examine its causes, both natural and human-induced, and look at its far-reaching consequences. We'll also discuss how the world, and Ethiopia in particular, is responding through adaptation and mitigation strategies, as well as international agreements. By the end, you'll understand not only what climate change is, but also why it matters and what can be done about it. Let's begin by setting the stage for this critical global issue. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns, mainly caused by natural processes and, increasingly, by human activities. Scientists use the term global climate to describe the average climate conditions around the world. When we talk about global climate change, we're referring to patterns of change that happen over many years. One of the most important trends is the steady increase in Earth's average temperature, known as global warming. This warming triggers other changes, such as stronger storms, melting glaciers, and loss of wildlife habitats. All these changes are interconnected, affecting air, water, and land. To understand climate change, it's helpful to know some key terms. Global warming describes the rise in average global temperatures. Greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide trap heat in the atmosphere, causing the planet to warm. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, is a leading international body that assesses climate science. These terms form the foundation for discussing climate change and its effects. As we move forward, keep these concepts in mind. They'll help you make sense of the trends and strategies we'll discuss. There's overwhelming scientific evidence that our climate is changing. Observations from the atmosphere, land, and oceans all point to significant shifts. For example, ice core records and direct measurements show that concentrations of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide have increased dramatically over the past few centuries. These increases are closely linked to human activities, especially since the Industrial Revolution. The evidence is clear. Our planet is warming, and the effects are being felt worldwide. Earth's climate has always changed, but recent trends show a rapid increase in global temperatures. Human activities, such as deforestation and emissions from industry and transportation, have accelerated these changes. Greenhouse gases trap heat, acting like a blanket around the planet. According to the IPCC, the average global surface temperature has risen by about 0.8 degrees C in the past century, with most of that increase occurring in recent decades. If emissions continue unchecked, temperatures could rise by as much as 5.8 degrees C by the end of this century. Climate change can be driven by natural factors. These include changes in incoming solar radiation, the composition of the atmosphere, and the Earth's surface. For example, the Milankovitch cycles, variations in the Earth's orbit, tilt and wobble, affect how much solar energy reaches the planet, leading to long-term cycles of ice ages and warm periods. Other natural events, like volcanic eruptions and changes in solar output, also play a role. However, current trends show that human activities are now the dominant force behind climate change. Milankovitch theory, named after astronomer Milutin Milankovitch, explains how variations in the Earth's orbit and tilt influence long-term climate patterns. These cycles affect the amount of solar energy reaching Earth, triggering natural periods of warming and cooling, such as ice ages and interglacial periods. Today, however, the current pace and scale of climate change go beyond what these natural cycles can explain, highlighting the significant impact of human activities. Solar energy output varies slightly due to sunspot activity, which follows an 11-year cycle. During periods of maximum sunspots, the sun emits slightly more energy. While these changes do influence Earth's climate, their impact is relatively minor compared to the effects of greenhouse gases. The current warming trend cannot be explained by solar variations alone, reinforcing the role of human activities in driving climate change. Tiny particles called aerosols enter the atmosphere from both natural and human sources. Natural sources include wildfires, dust storms, and volcanic eruptions. These particles can reflect sunlight, cooling the Earth's surface, or absorb sunlight, contributing to warming. The overall effect depends on the type and distribution of particles. Volcanic eruptions, especially those rich in sulfur gases, can create a haze that cools the planet for several years by reflecting sunlight back into space. Volcanic eruptions can have a significant, though temporary, impact on climate. When volcanoes erupt, they release ash and sulfur gases into the atmosphere. These particles can form a reflective haze in the stratosphere, blocking sunlight and cooling the Earth's surface. The cooling effect can last for several years, especially in the hemisphere where the eruption occurs. However, these natural events are not enough to explain the current, long-term warming trend. Human activities are now the primary driver of climate change. The burning of fossil fuels, like coal, oil, and natural gas, releases large amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Deforestation and changes in land use also contribute by reducing the planet's ability to absorb CO2. Industrial processes, transportation, and even agriculture add to the problem. These activities have pushed greenhouse gas levels far beyond natural ranges, intensifying the greenhouse effect and causing global warming. Many aerosols in the atmosphere come from human activities, such as emissions from factories, vehicles, and power plants. Some aerosols, like sulfates and nitrates, reflect sunlight and have a cooling effect, while others, like soot, absorb sunlight and contribute to warming. The balance between these effects is complex, but overall, the increase in greenhouse gases from human activities is driving the current warming trend. Changes in how we use land, such as clearing forests for agriculture or urban development, also affect the climate. Forests act as carbon sinks, absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. When trees are cut down and burned or left to decay, the stored CO2 is released, adding to greenhouse gas concentrations. Urban areas often have warmer climates than surrounding rural regions, a phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect. Greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, play a crucial role in warming the lower atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is especially important because it stays in the atmosphere for over 100 years. Methane and nitrous oxide are even more potent, though they remain for shorter periods. Human activities have dramatically increased the levels of these gases, intensifying the greenhouse effect and driving global warming. Water vapor is the most abundant greenhouse gas and plays a vital role in maintaining Earth's temperature. Naturally occurring greenhouse gases, including water vapor and CO2, keep the planet warm enough to support life. Without them, Earth's average temperature would be about 33 degrees C lower. The problem arises when human activities increase the concentration of these gases, causing temperatures to rise beyond natural levels. Since the late 1800s, the Earth's average surface temperature has risen by about 1 degree C. Each decade since the 1980s has been warmer than the one before. This warming is evident not only in temperature readings, but also in shrinking glaciers, rising sea levels, and changes in weather patterns. These trends are clear indicators that global warming is real and ongoing. Climate change has wide-ranging impacts on both human societies and natural systems. Land areas are warming faster than the global average, especially in northern regions during winter. In lower latitudes, droughts and unpredictable rainfall are becoming more common. These changes threaten food security, water resources, and the ability of people to support themselves. The effects are not evenly distributed. Some regions may experience more rainfall, while others face severe drought. One of the most visible consequences of climate change is rising sea levels. As glaciers and ice sheets melt, and as oceans warm and expand, sea levels are climbing. This poses a growing threat to millions of people living near coastlines. Higher sea levels increase the risk of flooding, storm surges, and saltwater contamination of freshwater supplies. Coastal ecosystems, like coral reefs, are also at risk. Rising temperatures in polar regions are causing complex changes in snow, ice, and wind patterns. In Antarctica, warmer air may lead to more snowfall in some areas, but increased melting along the coast. Greenland is experiencing rapid ice melt, and any increase in precipitation is likely offset by this melting. The overall trend is a shrinking ice sheet, contributing to sea level rise. Higher CO2 levels and warmer temperatures can have mixed effects on ecosystems. Some plants may grow faster, but only if water and nutrients are available. In some regions, certain plant species may dominate, crowding out others. In tropical areas, crop yields may decrease, while higher latitudes could see longer growing seasons. However, wildfires may become more common in dry, forested areas, and the overall impact on agriculture and ecosystems is expected to become increasingly negative. Climate change affects where species can live and thrive. As temperatures and rainfall patterns shift, some species may move to new areas, while others may struggle to survive. These changes can disrupt ecosystems and affect human well-being, especially in communities that rely on natural resources for their livelihoods. The interconnected impacts highlight the need for comprehensive strategies to adapt to and mitigate climate change. To address climate change, two main strategies are used: adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation involves making adjustments in natural or human systems to reduce harm or take advantage of opportunities. Mitigation focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and enhancing the planet's ability to absorb these gases. Both strategies are essential for managing the risks and impacts of climate change at local, national, and global levels. Adaptation means making changes to cope with the effects of climate change. In Ethiopia, common adaptation strategies include soil conservation, terracing, water harvesting, crop diversification, adjusting planting dates, planting trees, and using irrigation. These actions help communities manage risks and maintain their livelihoods in the face of changing climate conditions. Adaptation can be classified in several ways. Reactive adaptation happens after climate impacts are felt, while anticipatory adaptation takes place before impacts occur. Adaptation can also be private, driven by individuals or companies, or public, led by governments. Planned adaptation results from deliberate policy decisions, while autonomous adaptation happens naturally as systems respond to changing conditions. Mitigation aims to prevent further climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and increasing the planet's capacity to absorb these gases. This can be done by switching to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, protecting forests, and promoting sustainable land use. For example, using solar, wind, or hydropower instead of fossil fuels helps cut emissions and slow global warming. Global cooperation is essential to tackle climate change. The first World Climate Conference in 1979 recognized climate change as an urgent problem. Since then, major international agreements like the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement have set targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. These agreements encourage countries to work together, share technology, and support sustainable development. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions has many benefits. It can slow down global warming, reduce acid rain, improve air quality, and produce significant health benefits. By cutting emissions, we also help protect ecosystems and reduce the risks of extreme weather events. The most effective way to limit warming is to reduce the use of fossil fuels and switch to cleaner energy sources. Renewable energy sources like sunlight, wind, rain, tides, and geothermal heat are naturally replenished and produce little or no greenhouse gases. Embracing these technologies is a key part of fighting climate change. By investing in renewable energy, countries can reduce their dependence on fossil fuels, create jobs, and build a more sustainable future. Creating a culture of sustainable development means using energy wisely, choosing eco-friendly products, and supporting a circular economy. This approach encourages responsible consumption and production, helping to reduce waste and lower emissions. As consumers, our choices influence what products are made and how resources are used, making each of us part of the solution. Ethiopia is committed to a green growth path that balances development and sustainability. The Climate Resilient Green Economy (CRGE) strategy sets out a sectoral approach, identifying initiatives that help the country grow while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Ethiopia's plan is built on 4 main pillars, each designed to support economic growth and environmental protection. First pillar focuses on improving crop and livestock production practices. The goal is to increase farmer income and food security while reducing emissions. By adopting efficient agricultural techniques and limiting the expansion of farmland, Ethiopia aims to boost productivity without harming the environment. This approach also helps protect forests and maintain soil health. Protecting and re-establishing forests is the second pillar of Ethiopia's Green Economy Plan. Forests provide economic and ecosystem services, including storing carbon and supporting biodiversity. The CRGE strategy prioritizes reducing demand for fuel wood, increasing afforestation and reforestation, and promoting sustainable forest management. These actions help increase carbon storage and support long-term environmental health. Third pillar is about expanding electricity generation from renewable sources. Ethiopia is rich in natural resources like hydro, geothermal, solar, and wind power. By investing in these clean energy sources, the country can meet its growing electricity needs while keeping greenhouse gas emissions low. This pillar supports both domestic development and regional energy markets. Fourth pillar focuses on leapfrogging to modern, energy-efficient technologies in transport, industry, and buildings. By promoting energy efficiency and alternative fuels, Ethiopia aims to reduce emissions from key sectors like cement, textiles, and fertilizers. This approach supports sustainable development and positions Ethiopia as a leader in green innovation. We've covered the basic concepts of climate change, including its natural and human causes, global trends, and major consequences. We've also explored adaptation and mitigation strategies, international agreements, and Ethiopia's Climate Resilient Green Economy strategy. Understanding these concepts is the first step toward making informed decisions and taking meaningful action. Remember, climate change is driven by both natural and human factors. Natural causes include changes in solar radiation, volcanic eruptions, and orbital cycles. However, human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation, are now the dominant force. These actions have increased greenhouse gas concentrations, intensifying the greenhouse effect and causing global warming. The impacts of climate change are far-reaching. They include rising sea levels, more frequent and intense droughts, shifting weather patterns, and threats to food and water security. Ecosystems and species are also affected, with some benefiting and others struggling to survive. The overall trend points to increasing risks for both people and the planet. International conventions and agreements, like the Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement, set the framework for global action on climate change. These agreements encourage countries to set emission targets, share technology, and support sustainable development. Success depends on cooperation, commitment, and ongoing innovation. Ethiopia's climate-resilient green economy strategy is built on 4 pillars: sustainable agriculture, forest protection, renewable energy expansion, and modern technologies. Each pillar supports economic growth while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This approach positions Ethiopia as a leader in green development. The fight against climate change is ongoing, and new challenges and opportunities will continue to emerge. Staying informed, adapting to new information, and working together are essential for success. Every action counts, and together, we can make a difference. In summary, climate change is a complex but critical issue that affects every aspect of our lives. By understanding its causes, impacts, and solutions, we are better equipped to take meaningful action. Whether through adaptation, mitigation, or supporting green policies, everyone has a role to play in building a sustainable future. Thank you for joining this journey through the key concepts, trends, and solutions related to climate change. Remember, knowledge is the first step toward action. Stay curious, stay informed, and be part of the solution for a healthier planet.